All right, and here we go. So this is video 4. We're looking at this should be the last video for this section, for lab 1. So we're looking at kind of body planes and body sections. So this is if we want to look at kind of inside the body, like what are we going to find inside the body as we kind of divvy the body up in different directions. So you can imagine kind of slicing through the body to kind of find these different regions here. So there's 3 types of planes or sections that exist at right angles to each other. You can think of these as kind of the XYZ coordinates of the body relative to geometry here. So if we move on to here, what we're going to see is the different regions of what we're looking at is the sagittal plane. Sagittal section divides the bodies into right and left parts. The medial is the mid-sagittal section into equal right or left parts. So there's this idea, there's a difference between sagittal and mid-sagittal. So mid-sagittal is the middle one there. We have the frontal plane that splits the body into anterior and posterior, or face side and back side. And then we've got the transverse plane, which splits the body, kind of like imagine going, from your belly button through to your back, kind of across there, across your waist. That splits the body into superior and inferior parts. So if we look at kind of planes of the body kind of going through, so here you can see this sagittal plane kind of running, nose to belly button up and down like that, splitting the body into right and left. And that plane can migrate to either side, giving you different sagittal planes, but the mid-sagittal kind of goes right through the middle. And you can see again this lady is demonstrating proper anatomical positioning. Then we've got that frontal plane that slices the body into the front side and the back side. And then we've got our transverse plane, which kind of sections the body that way. Down below here, you can see these are different imaging techniques that they've done to generate different views of the body. So this is a mid-sagittal view of the body. This is a frontal view of the body. This is a transverse view of the body, looking at different organs within those different parts of the body that you can see. There's an activity 4, but there's no prepared specimen for activity 4, so you can cross that out. You don't have to do activity 4. If you want to attempt to draw what you think that spaghetti looks like, as you slice it up, go ahead and do that, but there's no need to. All right. But we did look at, kind of going back here real quick, you can kind of see there's these different kind of spaces within the body where things are found. So we call these body cavities, and we recognize a few different body cavities. There's 2 internal cavities that we call the dorsal cavity and the ventral cavity. The dorsal cavity is kind of in yellow here, and it contains the brain and then runs all the way through the spine for the spinal cord. And then we have the ventral cavity, which is basically the thoracic cavity with your heart and lungs, separated by the diaphragm and then moving down into the abdominal cavity. It's called the abdominal pelvic cavity. This image is a little bit confusing because it has this kind of flesh tone line through there, but really this is all one interconnected space. And this is all the ventral body cavity here as opposed to the dorsal body cavity there. Right. Different body cavities provide protection to different degrees. The dorsal body cavity, again, is the cranial cavity. This is the brain, protects the skull. The spinal cavity, which houses the spinal cord and is protected by the vertebra. Then we've got the ventral body cavity, which again 2 divisions here: the thoracic cavity and then the abdominal pelvic cavity, separated by that diaphragm. So, right. The thoracic cavity is superior to the diaphragm, heart, lungs, organs. There's something called the mediastinum, which is the central region, which is kind of this area here. Houses the heart, the trachea, and other organs across there. It's protected by the rib cage. So the mediastinum is kind of the middle part if you're looking at a person from the front, underneath the sternum, essentially, kind of around that area there. The abdominal pelvic cavity is kind of this lower region, all down here, inferior to the diaphragm. It's this upper part of it contains stomach, liver, other organs. It's protected only by trunk muscles. It doesn't have anything across the front of it. Most mammals, kind of are 4-legged, so they have kind of the ground below them to help protect them. If something comes at them, they can just kind of lay down flat. Humans are somewhat different, that we don't. The inferior part is the pelvic cavity that contains reproductive organs, bladder, rectum, and somewhat bladder and rectum, and it's somewhat protected by the pelvic bones there. And again, there's no real physical structure that separates those two. It's just kind of all one open space across them. So, what we can do though is we can locate either what we call the 4 quadrants or the 9 regions of the abdominal pelvic cavity area, subdivisions here. This is often used if you go in, you're like, oh, I'm experiencing pain in this spot or that part. They'll try to figure out what's going on based on where you're experiencing pain. So we divide that. So this is on your own body. So imagine, on your own left side, you've got your left upper quadrant. This is mostly kind of the stomach, large intestine, a little bit of small intestine there. Upper right quadrant is, this is kind of centered on your belly button area there. Upper right quadrant is a little bit of the stomach, but largely the liver, and then the gallbladder down there. The lower right quadrant is mostly intestine, small intestine, large intestine, but it also contains the appendix, which may become an issue. And then on the lower left side is mostly small intestine with large intestine on the outside there. So, those are the 4 quadrants back there, and then these are the 9 regions. So the 9 regions have some different names. It's easiest to start in the middle, the umbilical region, because that's where your umbilical cord is found. Epi means above, so we can go epigastric, so this is above, so we're moving up there. And then hypo means below, so hypogastric is below that. To either side of the umbilical region, we have the lumbar regions, a person's right or left umbilical lumbar region. And then moving up, we have the right hypochondriac and left hypochondriac region. And I forget what those refer to, but it's hypo is below. I think the chondriac refers to the ribs. So below the rib region, below the rib region. And then we've got the right and left iliac regions, and the iliac or inguinal, iliac refers to the bones of the pelvis there. So right iliac region, right or left iliac region. So those are the 9 regions. Starting from the umbilical cord, you can kind of move right and left, up and down, and then kind of get the corners there. And here you can see kind of inside the divvying up. Some people prefer to divvy it up this way. Right? So for activity 5, you're going to use either the torso model, again, please don't disassemble it, or yourself to look at the abdominal surface regions. And you can just kind of feel on yourself where those 4 things would be, or those 9 things would be. Become comfortable with both the quadrants and the 9 regions for that. There are some other body cavities, the oral and digestive cavity, the nasal cavity, orbital cavity, that's where your eyes are, middle ear cavities. We'll get into those quite a bit as we go further on. From here, you're going to move on and review, complete the review section. Again, if you finish it in class, turn it into the appropriate crate if you've got the paper version. If you've got just the lab manual, hang on to the lab manual. We'll turn those in later. But if you didn't finish, then don't worry about it. We'll collect it all, turn it all in later. So, and then almost last little bit here. On Canvas, you can go into the Quizlet section. If you follow this link, it'll lead you to help you practice the terms from Vocabulary 1, or from Lab 1 vocabulary terms. So there's a lot there to practice there. So I'll let you look at those on there. And then again, get in groups, try to organize and figure out kind of what emergency you want to talk about. I'm looking forward to hearing what people have. We have fun doing this part of it, talking about the different types of emergencies. So that's it for me. That kind of is the end of the slideshow. Thank you for listening, and we'll finish up with the rest of these later. So.